are here at Coupa headquarters with Rob Bernshteyn. Rob, nice to see you.
You as well.
Okay, so tell us, before we get into all this, where are we in a normal situation? Is this the conference room? Is this the lounge? Is this the cafe? Where are we in Coupa right now?
This is a room where we have our full company meetings streamed to everywhere in the world, with about 150 or so people in this room and thousands of people around the world all watching us live, talk about the latest and greatest of what's going on with our customer community.
No, we have a lot of people watching us now. Do you miss that? Do you miss the energy of people and having people in the business or in the office, or is it something that you've kind of gotten used to now?
I miss it to some degree, but we've made it virtual. I interact with colleagues all over the world on a daily basis. I have probably a dozen Zoom sessions a day nowadays, talking to people in every function, as well as talking to our customers and prospects and partners. So we've become somewhat accustomed to this new world, and we're focused on measurable results for our customers. So it's just some of the obstacles we have to deal with to get there.
We've got a lot to get to. How you became to where you are, what inspired you, something about your dancing skills we'll get to a bit later. But I just want to address right now, with so much happening in this world, politically, social unrest, it impacts you, every leader, I would imagine. How challenging is it to be a leader, to be a CEO of any company right now?
Well, I think it is challenging, but I don't think you become a CEO if you're not interested in taking on that challenge and taking on the accountability of carrying on your shoulders everything that you need to carry to keep your employees in a place where they are centered, where they're at peace, where they're working through whatever challenges they have, where you're not interested in working with your customers and make sure they're resilient through these tough times, which we're working on, where you don't have strong bonds with many of the partners that you have out there, your board, your investors. So I love the accountability. I love the job. So I just see this as one of the challenges that we have to deal with in our day-to-day to kind of get through it and get to the other side.
What inspired you early on? Is there a moment in your life when you were, 10 years old, 20 years old, where you said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to lead and innovate. What inspired you?
Well, it's interesting you say lead and innovate, because those are two themes I've had in my life since as early as I can remember. On the lead, I was inspired by capitalism. I was born in the former Soviet Union, USSR. And when I came to this country, I first saw entrepreneurship and business. I got excited about the fact that if you work harder, you can achieve so much. If you work harder, work smarter, you could achieve so much. I had an early baseball card business and a paper route, and I had all these things. And so when I went to college, I knew I wanted to be a leader. I knew I wanted to be a leader in business. And then I got involved in information technology. I took computer science classes, and I first saw the spark of innovation that's possible through code, through encoding logic. And I set out to build a career with those two themes in mind, becoming a strong leader and one that wants to innovate and help change the world, if you will, right?
By reading, by writing, by talking to people, how did you early on get up to speed?
I sort of self-curated an apprenticeship for myself in the enterprise software world. I had an internship back in 1994 at Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture, and I was first exposed to mainframe systems and batch jobs and all the complexity of enterprise software. And I remember telling my mom, coming back one evening, I said, I was thinking about my career. I remember telling her, I could spend an entire career in this industry. I mean, there's so much to fix. there's so much to do. So I curated this apprenticeship for myself. I spent time in every function, from programming to implementation to product management to sales. I worked in large companies, small companies, to create this kind of situation for myself where I could emerge as a leader that can really be set up for making a big impact. And I'm really in the heart of that in my career right now.
What's the jumping off point? So many people are watching this, they work at, back in the day, Siebel or Accenture or whatever company, yet they want to branch out and do something on their own, like you did. What was your jumping off point? What sparked you?
Well, I was sort of setting myself up for that jumping off point and doing everything possible to increase the likelihood of potential success. But I think what ultimately it was the desire for challenge, the desire for testing myself, the desire for sort of going into the unknown and embracing the unknown. I was just really into that. I wanted that experience. I wanted to test myself. And it's one of the reasons I got going with Coupa and building up Coupa in 2009 at a time when folks weren't really taking those types of jobs.
Yeah. Coupa, what does it stand for? It's an acronym. I Googled it. Tell me.
Well, look, our business is focused on helping organizations around the world, large and small, optimize the way they manage their business spending. And we think we have the best technology for that. We have incredible best practices for that. We have, I think, a culture that I take incredible pride in achieving that. It stands for our vision areas. So the C is comprehensive. We want to cover every area of business spending. The O stands for open. Open in terms of technical integration, open to all kinds of systems, but also open in spirit, in the way we interact with our customers, candid, honest, authentic. The U stands for user centricity. This is a very important concept. A lot of enterprise software doesn't get wide adoption because it's not oriented toward the user. We're really oriented toward all the personas in a company. The P stands for prescriptive, which touches on this book, and that is really finding ways to provide prescriptive insight to people right where they are so they can make decisions based on the data of all of our customers in real time. And the A stands for accelerated. It's our commitment to go as fast as humanly possible for driving value for all of our customers.
Why do you guys do it better than your competitors?
You know, underneath all the things I could tell you about our technology, about how we're set up as a business, about our referenceability, I could tell you all of those things, and I really think there's a lot of special ingredients there. Underneath it all, it's about our people, it's about our culture, it's about our commitment to our core values. We relish in taking on complexity, taking on challenges that others might not want to take, because we take so much pride in seeing the customer get measurable success from working with us. And we take it one customer at a time. We celebrate every customer win. We celebrate every customer go live. When we have challenges with customers, we do whatever it takes to get the job done. And I'm talking about working in the middle of the night, working on the weekend, whatever it takes. And there's such a pride there that has presented itself certainly on the management team, but across the company at a scale that I had always envisioned, but I didn't know was possible, and one that I want to grow, you know, as far as we're destined to take it.
Why aren't other pre-IPO or startups or public companies, if they don't focus on culture as much, why don't they? If it seems so simple, hey, focus on culture, things will get better. Why don't they do that?
You know, I was really, really proud to have gotten into Harvard to get my master's in business administration, and we spent some time on culture, but not as much as we probably could have. I think this is a different world today. Information is completely transparent. The world is flat again in that way. And the idea that silos and functions and departmental groups are sort of structured in ways that aren't open and transparent is a thing of the past. I'd also argue a thing of the past, which is, of course, the Industrial Revolution and these kind of command and control environments. I think we're in a world now where, in the information age, where so many of the folks that I think listening to us are involved in companies that are using information technology, entrepreneurship, spirit, the trick here is to unlock human potential. And what binds us as a company is our values. We're not bound by our four walls, clearly.
Yeah.
We're not bound by our direct deposit. You can go work wherever you want. We're bound and we're organized as an organization, if you will. We're organized around our core values. That is what makes us unique. We commit to certain principles of our work. And if there are colleagues of mine that at some point decide that they do not want to ascribe to those values, that's the beauty of the world today. They can find other places to stretch themselves and pursue their goals. But as long as they're committed to our values, I think we can achieve any mission we undertake. And so our mission and vision is more malleable, but our core values, they're really the binding principles of the company.
Two big missteps or mistakes that you've made, whether it's recently or years past, that you want to share, that can help other people.
I make mistakes every single day.
Sure. What stands out, though? Oh, gosh, I wish I'd done that one differently.
I think with every decision, I would rather have gone faster. With every decision, trusted my intuition and made the decision faster. I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't give their intuition as much credit as they ought to. They're looking externally, they're reading case studies, they're watching a person like me and trying to get some insight, but ultimately a CEO has to look inward for many of the answers that are already there. And if you trust your intuition, I believe you can move quicker. I've made the mistake of sometimes overthinking certain things and not moving as fast as I could have. If I can go back, I would have moved quicker.
And that's staffing, technical,
everything.
Personnel, everything.
Everything, absolutely every area of the business.
It's interesting. I'm dwelling on that. Okay, some guidance here for everyone logged on here. early days of this company, and then pre-IPO and post-IPO. Let's just go some guidance here, what you would tell everyone how to approach something early days of a company.
You know,
And we could talk about this for 5 hours, but in a nutshell.
You know, let me use a metaphor to describe it, and I love the metaphor of the tree, if you will. And you talk about kind of startup, you're saying pre-IPO and post-IPO. If you think about the tree as the metaphor, the startup phase is where you're planting the seeds for the tree. And the seeds are the DNA, the core values, the commitment to what it is that you actually stand for as a company. What are the binding principles? Those seeds have that DNA, and they're going to spawn the entire tree. So getting locked in on them and keeping them consistent through the growth of the company. Of course, as part of that, you have to do all the basics, and that would be a long seminar here about, you know, product market fit and investment and all these things. But a lot of that is textbook. I think the core values is key for that early phase. The pre-IPO phase, the tree has started to grow. And you maybe have a couple of stakes that are keeping it standing, if you will. There again, there are the typical MBA things, right? Is there a big total addressable market? Can you scale? Do you have the right sort of infrastructure for growth? All of that is a given. But again, trusting your intuition. If you remove the stakes that are holding up the tree, is there a strong likelihood in your mind's eye that this tree has a high likelihood of standing on its own, being able to persevere through strong winds, and has the likelihood to flourish and become a real meaningful force in the world as a company? When you have that intuition, yes, you need to be at a certain revenue scale, all of that, that's obvious. Perhaps it's time to consider that. And then post-IPO is a really magical experience. I mean, now the tree is growing. It's withstanding the wind, if you will. Now you have to look for ways to architect a future for this tree, right? You want to be growing the roots deeper and deeper. You want to be supporting your organization so that your employees are reaching for the sky. They're reaching for the sun, if you will, right? You want to create a situation where if everyone stopped with the metaphor for a moment and they stepped back and looked at the tree, they would say, wow, I am so proud to have been part of this growth at any moment in time, and certainly later in their career. So that's how I would think about it. I think this metaphor really speaks to what I've always had, again, in my mind through these phases.
What are they? You're a Harvard, proud Harvard alum, I know, but Harvard, Stanford, IIT, wherever people are getting their advanced degrees, what's something that perhaps you should tell everyone, don't listen to that, what they're teaching you? Is there a certain point of what they're teaching at these prestigious or non-prestigious schools that maybe you're like, don't waste your time on that. That's just a lot of classroom time.
Right. That's very interesting. You know, when I was in college and even going into business school, I had consumed information from the teachers, from my classmates, from others. And only towards the end probably of my MBA and as I got into the business world further that I realized that it's not as much about consuming information, it's about actually using your own judgment or testing your own judgment in terms of how you would react to certain situations in the business world. How would you react to certain financial constraints? How would you react to human capital constraints? How would you react to technical constraints, investor constraints? So I think education very often is about, you know, seeing how the bike is ridden. Mm-hmm. And I think the earlier you could experience beginning to ride a bike by personally putting yourself in situations and testing yourself, the earlier you're going to build that muscle memory that'll allow you to really stretch it further and further as you develop your career.
What are some, and this kind of dovetails off that question, what are some mistakes that you see in young entrepreneurs, that some early things that perhaps they can focus on?
Well, I think one of the things that, and I talk to so many, and I've had the pleasure of being an angel investor in a number of them, I think they orient themselves a lot to what the VC community may tell them. They orient themselves very often to an external perception of whether or not something could or can't work. They don't trust their gut enough, and they often don't unlock the spirit that they have that got them excited about entrepreneurship to begin with. They don't visualize very often a future. You know, you've got let's say a company, an entrepreneur, he or she has 10 people in the company, 20 people in the company. My advice to them would be, yes, worry about the day-to-day, but sit down, close your eyes, and visualize what could this company be 7 years from now. Visualize it, see it, feel it. so that the world could begin to manifest in every single week since then to help you bring that into existence. And I know that's a spiritual sort of perspective, but I think it's very powerful. And it's one of our values here. Our second core values, focus on results. We don't focus on, process. We focus on this is the result we visualize, and then we start to bring that into reality. And that's what I think entrepreneurs should be doing more and more. Get passionate, tap into the passion that you have there anyway, because that's why you became an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. In terms of the reality now, is this a time to kind of hide under a rock with all the things that are going on in this world, or is there a lot of opportunity that you see?
The opportunity now is just incredible, right? I mean, supply chains in the whole world are being completely rewired. Just about every industry is being accelerated into the digital world. That opens up huge opportunities for new business models, new value propositions.
You get excited about this.
Oh, absolutely. This is huge. For us, you talked about some of the challenges we face, but we have so many opportunities for us internally here. We've become so much more efficient at implementing our customers, at interacting with prospects digitally, at solving a lot of problems in ways that we hadn't done before. So I think any shakeup of any kind creates opportunity, and that's when tapping into that entrepreneurial spirit is never more important, right?
What's happened here at Coupa? I don't want to get too much into the numbers here, but your stock pre-COVID was in the low 100s, I believe. Now it's in the 300s. What just happened, and why?
Well, I'll tell you, we orient ourselves, and I know many CEOs say this, and of course I'm aware of our stock price, but I'm really not oriented toward it on a daily, weekly, maybe quarterly basis, because that's when you have an earnings call and you're sort of updating your investors. But I think what's happened is that there are two things. One, there is clearly an acceleration seen towards digitization, the digital transformation. We all know the term, and so what we do obviously helps streamline processes that were once paper-based or voice or email or completely unstructured, and bring them into the digital world and make them much more operationally efficient and visible. So we stand to benefit from that, arguably. That's without question. And secondarily, when you have tough times like this, particularly on the revenue side, folks tend to turn more toward profitability. And our value proposition around profitability is exceptional. I mean, we help companies, save billions of dollars, right? And we've managed, nearly $2 trillion worth of money through our platform to date. So our value proposition is in an area that has always had a lot of focus, but arguably is getting even more attention in today's world.
You have some major clients. I think, is Nike one of your clients?
It is.
So I'm Nike. Just in a nutshell, what are you doing? What's Coupa doing for me? I'm Nike, and how to maximize my business.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nike, like so many companies around the world, and I'll just give you one example. I can give you about 15, given all the modules and capabilities we have. But you're receiving invoices for things that you're ordering, right? The rubber, the shoelaces, all your indirect materials and services, and you're getting a lot of them in paper, believe it or not. And you're sending payments with paper checks in many cases. So we help streamline all those processes. We bring them into a digital experience. You're creating an e-commerce type environment between a buyer and a supplier, so they can do business with each other without ever touching paper, without ever having a bunch of manual effort. We have AI built in so that any tolerance checks or anything that are off will get surfaced immediately, so you can handle exceptions rather than having to go through all of it. And we bring the power of our community together. So insights we learn about best practices, or how to manage, say, supplier risk, or a whole host of other examples, we bring that intelligence for the benefit of each company, like a Nike. So Nike could leverage the experience of our, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers around the world when they look to optimize their distinct business process. It's powerful.
Give me a client of yours, and hopefully you can name my name, of where it started out a little rocky, there was a problem, and then there was a pivot. You made some adjustments, and things turned out for the better.
Oh gosh, that happens on an ongoing basis. Our enterprise software world is unfortunately a world that trained buyers in the 90s, late 90s largely, to buy based on how many features and functions you have. Mm-hmm. And it was a very hard lesson that took about a decade and a half for customers to understand that it's not about how many features and functions you have. It's about what you're actually going to use and what you're actually going to get value from. So there are still remnants of that kind of mindset on behalf of customers. We still get long RFPs, 80, 90 pages. It's everything that we need. Realistically, they might not need half of that. What they need is a reimagined way to do a business process in a best practices way that we've done. So many times we'll still engage with those accounts. Of course, we want to win them. And we have to go through the change management process and say, look, we could do that, which gets a little rocky. We could do that, but I'm not sure that's going to make you measurably successful. Can you consider this more best practices way of doing it? And get them to understand that this is about change management and driving results and not about beating up a vendor the way you used to a couple of decades ago.
Does it work?
You bet it works. That's why I think we're growing very, very quickly, and we take that very, very seriously. It's a big part of our business.
A quote stands out that you've said before. Stop focusing on customer satisfaction. Instead, focus on customer success. Stop focusing on customer satisfaction. Focus on customer success. Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's pretty provocative, isn't it? You would say, why wouldn't
Usually
I focus on
it's the other way around, right? It's all customer satisfaction. The customer's right. Tell me.
If you look at the customer satisfaction dimension, it's infinite. It's infinite. You know, I'm a customer, you're a customer. Why should I ever be satisfied? I want everything to be faster, better, cheaper. I want it to toast my bread, and I want it to wake me up in the morning and put me to bed at night. I want unlimited. I'm never going to be satisfied. So why would you, as a technology player that needs scale and needs leverage, focus on satisfaction? You're going to wind up having a whole host of different ways to deliver it. Why not focus on measurable, quantifiable customer success, so that if a third party walked up and said, well, I'm charging you this much as a subscription, and you're getting this measurable value, the relationship is fair, obviously you're getting more value than you're being charged, and it can grow on an annual basis, quarterly basis, into a place where we could be partners forever. I think measurable customer success should be the orientation. Chasing the dream of satisfaction is a tough dream to chase. Now, don't get me wrong. We'd love our customers to also be satisfied.
Sure.
And the vast majority of them are. Our renewal rates are really strong. We're proud of them. But that's not what we're oriented toward.
I'm going to sit down with you in 3 years from now. What are we going to talk about? What are you going to be doing? What's going to be happening with Coupa?
Well, I look forward to it. I think we're going to be talking about some of the things I bring up in this book, Smarter Together. I think we're going to be talking about this incredible situation that's happening right now, particularly in our industry of enterprise software. You know, the enterprise software industry is really a story of siloed data. You know, you would sell software to a customer, you'd set up their database, their applications, their UI and all that, and they'd live in their own world. And then you set up another customer, they'd live in their own world. What we are doing at Coupa is we're breaking those silos, and we are taking data from the many for the benefit of each individual customer through aggregation of data, through artificial intelligence and massaging and listening and understanding data, and then delivering in a valuable way. It's happening in the consumer world everywhere. It's how we travel when we use Waze, right? Sure. It's how we stay fit with a Fitbit. It's leveraging cross consumer data. Enterprise software has not done that as an industry. And I think 3 years from now, and we're already well into it with Coupa, this is going to be really the next frontier of how businesses are going to get smarter together and are going to grow.
You mentioned your book. Why write it? You got a lot on your plate. You got a family, you got kids, you got this company. Why sit down and actually write this book?
Sure.
Smarter Together, by the way.
You know, one of the things for me is that I finished with an MBA, but I never got a PhD. And
so that's your PhD?
I've always been curious about it. I've always been curious about what is a thesis and whatnot. So this book, as well as the former book, Value as a Service, both books are position papers, if you will. They help me because as I'm writing the chapters, as I'm thinking through the content, they help me structure my own thinking. But I also want to put something into public domain. I want to be a contributor to society, right? I mean, I think to some extent it helps us from a marketing perspective. People hear about Coupa as well, so there's a parallel process. But I also want to be a contributor to the world, if you will. So if I could be on the front end of certain thought that can help our industry move forward, why wouldn't I want to, take a bit of time to make that happen?
Who's that going to help, that book? What kind of person?
I think it can help quite a few people. I think for one, I think there's elements of the book that can help individuals at companies. They can learn about how using these types of approaches can make them smarter in their job and help them get promoted and move up. I think it can help industries, if you think about certain industries you're going into and the dynamics of certain industries. but certainly I think it can help companies. I think we are literally swimming in data. The amount of data being created today is crazy. I mean, we're talking about by 2025, something like 500 exabytes of data daily. So how do you make sense of that information? And this book really talks about how you can put in place the principles, the technology, the structure to make sense of that information and be able to deliver it to your company for that company's benefit so they could persevere and thrive in today and tomorrow's world.
Okay, as we wrap it up, a couple of quick hitters here. My NBC sources tell me that there's a CEO in the Silicon Valley in the Bay Area that likes to dance and can dance pretty well. We have footage. This is fun. This is culture. And when did this happen?
Well,
I'm looking at this video that you sent out to the employees. You guys did like a musical video.
Yeah, we do a music video every year for our annual conference. Listen, someone put on some music. I figured I'd bust a move, right? But look, I think it's the spirit of expressing yourself. We think about our company truly as a platform for personal and professional self-expression, a place that people could just be authentic. Listen, I like to dance, so if you put on great music, why wouldn't I bust a move, right?
You're not necessarily a huge baseball fan, but you collect and trade baseball cards. Why?
You know something? It's nice to have a parallel process or hobby in your life that you care a lot about, but that doesn't necessarily impact a lot of people. And it helps me sort of come back to center, right? It's something I do in the evenings. I listen to baseball card podcasts. I buy certain things. I sell certain things. It's something I started in my youth, and I've always continued. So it gives me a certain level of comfort and centeredness.
So a kid from Russia living here now likes baseball cards.
Yeah, well, of course, over time I became to love baseball as well. I mean, it's all about strategy and discipline, and it's just a wonderful sport. So all that combined to be an interesting thing.
What's a couple of cards that you like that have some high value?
Well, I love Mickey Mantle because he represents so much about, or at least in my view, represents so much about what was always so great about the United States of America, and kind of that spirit of perseverance. And not a lot of people know about his background. He was hurt, but he was winning and winning and winning and doing whatever it takes. And I love not only him, but so many players just watching their entire career from the point that they were rookie to the point they retired, and all the things they did to stretch themselves and take on challenges. And I really see it almost as a metaphor, or truly as a metaphor for my own career and the careers of many of the people I support in the company.
Rob, thanks for your time. I think it's been very helpful for everyone watching this, and it's a pleasure to chat with you today.
Thank you.